Hi everyone, Krinza again, and today we have with us Dmitrii. He is the senior product manager at Ankr, and he was leading the API product line for us. And last week we actually released the version 1 of Ankr Advanced APIs. So that's something that we are going to talk about later in the episode. But overall, in the conversation, we are going to explore the state of APIs in the Web3 space and how developers can basically integrate powerful Web3 functionalities into their tech stack without having to do all of the heavy lifting themselves. But before we dive into that, Dmitrii, I want to ask for all of the listeners who might need some kind of refresher on some concepts. So, what is an RPC node and how are APIs different than the RPCs? Because we are offering both of these services right now.
When it comes to the RPC systems, RPC is nothing more than just a vanilla API that comes with every single blockchain. Some blockchains are using REST APIs, but JSON RPC is the main protocol, messaging protocol that's being used to interact with a node. When we talk about JSON APIs or advanced APIs, those are more, I would call them auxiliary services that allow users to build more complex use cases. And these APIs are very different when it comes from product to product. So a lot of infrastructure providers currently provide some sort of an API that allows developers to save time, money, and build faster.
So what's the difference between API and RPCs?
RPCs, the JSON RPC, like I said, is just a messaging mechanism that it's a mechanism that is provided directly by the node. We have, for example, ETH get balance or ETH get block number. All of these methods, they are provided right away out of the box. When it comes to advanced APIs or additional APIs that infrastructure providers build, these are more complex use cases where, for example, we have NFT use cases in our own API. You can fetch NFTs by an address, which is something that is not directly provided by the vanilla RPC API directly from the node, from Ethereum, for example. The goal of these advanced APIs is just to provide a service that allows developers to build complex use cases faster. Sometimes these use cases haven't been covered in the past by vanilla RPC, so we are trying to catch up given the trends in the market. For example, like NFT, again, that's a huge trend that none of the creators of Ethereum probably did not foresee in the beginning, and hence there is no specific methods or API calls that cover this use case. That's why we see an explosion of these extra auxiliary services that help developers build all these use cases faster.
So you talked about trends, right? So what is the driving force for such services like advanced APIs into the Web3 space? And what are the challenges that we are trying to solve for the developers building in this space?
The driving force, the trends in the market are dictating pretty much what's popular, what's hot today. So if we take today, we can talk about trends in terms of the blockchains, layer 1 blockchains, layer 2, or specific use cases. Again, NFTs, we've covered them multiple times. There's a huge trend right now also in data querying, understanding the data that's available. There's a couple of great products on the market already. However, for developers, it's still hard to query very large chunks of data or very large block ranges across multiple chains at the same time. So our advanced API is we build the API in a way that allows developers to traverse very large block ranges and interact with the blockchain in a way that is very familiar to them in the same format that they interact with a regular JSON RPC service or just a regular node. So with the trends, what we're trying to do here at Ankr, we are analyzing the current market trends, analyzing the demand, trying to understand by working with developers what are their pain points. Again, one of the biggest pain points that we're trying to address currently is there's a lot of various L2s and a lot of L1s. Very often one address can be instantiated on every single network, every single blockchain. So a user, for example, interacting with Arbitrum and interacting with Avalanche and with Phantom and other blockchain networks can have some NFTs, can have some balances on each of these networks. So what we're trying to achieve with the Advanced API is combining all of these networks into one and allowing the user to traverse the data across all of these networks with one call. And again, this is given based on the trends in the market. Eventually, there could be a trend where all of these L2s and L1s have one data layer that is that combines all of the chains together, and hopefully we'll be ready by then to provide a system and a service to our users. The main goal is to combine all the data across all of these chains into one place where users can easily query it and aggregate it and build new use cases.
Yeah, I think you talked about a lot of things. You talked about difficulty of querying data from the blockchain and how, when you're querying data from blockchains, it always runs into performance and bandwidth issues, and developers don't necessarily have to reinvent the entire wheel because, companies and teams like Ankr are working on providing such services for them. This brings me to the next question. So we have released a suite of APIs, right? What do you think that they offer in terms of data layer, and what are the methods available right now?
Absolutely. We currently have three main subsections of this advanced API, which is NFT, token API, and then query API, or we'll also call it the search API. In terms of each of these subsections, NFT, it's pretty self-explanatory. You can provide an address and find all the NFTs available across multiple L1s and L2s simultaneously. You can provide an NFT contract to fetch metadata, find ownership, and so forth. Where it gets more interesting is with our token API service, we actually are providing a pricing endpoint that fetches and aggregates the price across multiple liquidity pools, which is we think it's a novel way of getting the price, for example, because currently there is only two ways of getting a token price. It's either through an oracle like Chainlink, or we use a third-party API like CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap. What we did is we tried to take the on-chain data across multiple liquidity pools and aggregate the price that way. So it's yet another data point that our developers can use in trying to form a better understanding of what the price of a specific token is. Another really cool endpoint is get all balances based on the owner's address, where we aggregate absolutely everything in terms of ERC20 tokens across all of these 7 currently EVM compatible chains. And that's exciting because once you use that endpoint, you can see how much stuff you really have across all of these chains. It's always funny to see users' reactions when they get this huge response with all of the data. And this really shows that our users, in general, the users that use these API endpoints, they're surprised to see the amount of data that is currently available. It's just hard to get it all in one place, and that's what we're trying to do. finally, with Query API and the Search APIs, we currently don't have a limit range on how many blocks you can traverse and search. So you can easily use our, for example, Ankr get logs endpoint to filter by topics, filter by events, filter by even by blockchain, which is really exciting. Usually there is a cap on how many blocks you can filter at a time. Different infrastructure providers provide different ranges. Even our out-of-the-box range is about 3,000 blocks, which is not a lot. So through using this API, Ankr get logs endpoint, you can traverse quite a bit and get quite a bit of data in one go.
And lastly, what are some of the use cases or applications for developers that can be built on top of Ankr Advanced APIs? If you want to go through any of the use cases or products that you want to see being built by builders in this space.
Absolutely. I think one of the first use cases, even ourselves that have built, is a block explorer, a multi-chain block explorer. You can actually go ahead and take a look at anchorscan.io. That is our in-house built block explorer that showcases the power of the advanced API that serves as the backend for the service. Another very cool use case is, again, NFT related. You can build very quickly. You can build a multi-chain gallery, and I know that you have worked on it, Krinza, and others, and it's fairly simple to do so. Just have to plug in your API key and a little bit of front-end work, and you have 7 chains in one project, which is exciting. Also, you can build wallets. You can build data aggregation tools. Again, multi-chain wallets I mentioned. Anything in terms of searching for data, traversing large chunks of data. We have a team that is using the API to aggregate various prices across tokens, across different chains, which is an interesting use case. And there will be more use cases as we expand the API itself. We're very excited to be expanding into the Solana ecosystem, which is what we're working on right now. So hopefully we'll be able to offer very soon a Solana advanced API that also covers not only current data, but also historical data. Yeah, there's a lot of incoming features, but really the goal of the API is to call multiple chains in one go. So whatever project you're using, if you're a multi-chain project, you can benefit from using the advanced API.